Another major story tonight. The chair of the Senate Intelligence Committee has accused the CIA of spying on Congress in an astonishing speech. Democrat Dianne Feinstein claimed that in 2010, the agency hacked into the computers of her committee, which oversees the CIA. Wyatt Andrews has our story.
From California is recognized.
The speech was both a surprise and unprecedented. Dianne Feinstein, the chair of the Senate Intelligence Committee, says the CIA spied on the committee's computers and deleted important documents. She said it happened during an investigation into the CIA's controversial interrogation techniques, including waterboarding used against suspected terrorists. By snooping on Congress, Feinstein said the CIA crossed the line.
I have grave concerns that the CIA's search may well have violated the separation of powers principles embodied in the United States Constitution.
The director of the CIA, John Brennan, denied that the agency did anything wrong.
As far as the allegations of, CIA hacking into, Senate computers, nothing could be further from the truth. I mean, we wouldn't do that.
CIA Director John Brennan is apologizing to Senate Intelligence Committee leaders. His Inspector General found CIA employees acted improperly when they searched Senate computers.
A fact that's been pretty obvious for a while. Former Obama CIA chief John Brennan is a liar. Not only that, he lied to Congress. In the spring of 2017, Brennan told the House Intel Committee that the Steele dossier played no role in the creation of an intelligence community assessment on Russian interference that was presented to both President Obama and President-elect Trump. Now, Brennan was not vague about this. He said unequivocally on camera, the dossier was totally irrelevant. That was a complete lie. The IG report proves it. A lie. The Steele dossier, in fact, was a major element of the intelligence assessment, and Brennan in particular found it very important. In other words, John Brennan, not a close call here, perjured himself on camera in front of the world. But here's the striking thing. John Brennan is not facing perjury charges. In fact, he's still tweeting self-righteously and making smug appearances on CNN, which I think, check my memory for a second, pays him as a contributor.
The top intelligence official in the country and the director of the NSA are testifying on Capitol Hill as we speak. And when pressed about reports that the NSA has been tapping the phones of foreign leaders, even allies, Director of National Intelligence James Clapper said that's long been par for the course. Now, the White House has long denied German media reports that President Obama was told in 2010 that the NSA was spying, tapping the phone of German Chancellor Angela Merkel, and let it going on. The intelligence
spy unlawfully on Americans, or for that matter, spy indiscriminately on the citizens of any country. We only spy for valid foreign intelligence purposes as authorized by law, with multiple layers of oversight to ensure we don't abuse our...
What I'm saying is that the Director of National Intelligence in March did directly lie to Congress, which is against the law. He said that they were not collecting any data on American citizens.
You're talking about James Clapper.
And it turns out they're collecting billions of data on phone calls every day. So it was a lie. What I'm saying is that by lying to Congress, which is against the law.
After Mr. Trump fired him in May 2017, Comey asked a friend to give the memos to the New York Times.
I asked him to because I thought that might prompt the appointment of a special counsel.
The tactic worked.
Robert Republicans, did you have total confidence in the dossier when you used it to secure a surveillance warrant and also in the subsequent renewals?
I have total confidence that the FISA process was followed and that the entire case was handled in a thoughtful, responsible way by DOJ and the FBI. I think the notion that FISA was abused here is nonsense.
As a private citizen.
The Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court has issued a rare public rebuke to the FBI. It's accusing the agency of misleading judges when it requested warrants to wiretap former Trump campaign aide Carter Page. In a public order filed Tuesday, the typically secretive court criticized the FBI for multiple omissions and inaccuracies in applications to monitor Page's electronic communications as part of the Russia investigation. And it gave the Bureau until January 10th to explain what it plans to do to make sure those mistakes don't happen again. The order read in part, the frequency with which representations made by FBI personnel turned out to be unsupported or contradicted by information in their possession, and with which they withheld information detrimental to their case, calls into question whether information contained in other FBI applications is reliable. This is the court's first public response to a watchdog report released earlier this month that revealed serious issues with the agency's wiretapping process. Lawmakers on both sides of the aisle are now calling for reforms.
When did you learn that the DNC and Hillary Clinton campaign had funded Christopher Steele's work?
Yeah, I still don't know that for a fact.
What do you mean?
I've only seen it in the media. I never knew exactly which Democrats had funded. I knew it was funded first by Republicans, opposed to Donald.
But that's not true.
It's not true. Former FBI Director James Comey called out by our own Bret Baier on his claim that the anti-Trump dossier was funded by Republicans, which, again, as Bret said, is not true. Here is a guy who used the Trump dossier to get a FISA warrant to spy on a political campaign. He paid Mr. Steele, the guy, and he didn't know who was behind it.
Have you ever thought of an FBI director who was more unaware of what was going on around him?
Unaware or lying right now.
Or doesn't have a good answer for it. I mean, the idea that he wouldn't know. He not only said he didn't know, he said he didn't need to know or wasn't interested in. Another one on that, on the warrant, when Bret asked him about the warrant and said what was the role in it. My understanding from the congressmen that have looked at the application is that they led with the dossier in the application for it, and they relied heavily on it. And my understanding from Mr. McCabe, when he testified before Congress, is that he basically said no dossier, no warrant. Right. So it's setting up Mr. Comey against Mr. McCabe again.
And a guy who was so inept not to know all this stuff that he certainly deserved to be fired, which is exactly what happened to him. But let's talk about leaks, and let's get a little bit of the exchange on leaks from the interview last night. Go ahead.
Did you leak other things through Mr. Richmond?
Yeah. I'm smiling, Brett. I don't consider what I did with Mr. Richmond a leak.
He doesn't consider it a leak, he says with a laugh.
The Justice Department says former FBI Director James Comey violated FBI policy by leaking memos about private conversations he had with President Trump. The Inspector General released an 83-page report Thursday. He criticizes Comey for setting a, quote, dangerous example. Information from those leaked memos eventually led to the appointment of Special Counsel Robert Mueller.
Did the FBI spy on the Trump campaign?
No. The FBI investigated to try and understand, are there people associated with the Trump campaign who are in bed with the Russian effort to attack our democracy? We should have been fired if we didn't investigate that, given the smoke we saw at the end of July of 2016. But we investigate, and the Attorney General knows that. We don't spy on people.
All right, major developments again tonight on the deep state spying on the Trump campaign. James Clapper, Barack Obama's former director of national intelligence, is actually today saying it was a good thing that the Trump campaign had a spy for the FBI in their campaign during an election? I can't believe it. Where was the spy in the Hillary campaign where she did pay for Russian lies? Clapper's so pompous, so arrogant, this is so illegal, he's actually bragging about surveilling an opposition party during a presidential election year. If that's the case, this is not America. We don't have a constitution. This is something you'd expect from the former Soviet Union, Venezuela. Then again, you got Clapper's buddy, John Brennan, who's also up to his eyeballs in this scandal, probably knows a lot about it since, remember, he's the guy that voted for a communist for president. We need to fix it because this is about the Constitution of the United States, and it's literally hanging in the balance at this hour. You have unelected deep state actors shredding our Fourth Amendment rights, your right to privacy, protection against unreasonable search and seizure. This is, as I've been telling you, one of the darkest chapters in American history. The Trump campaign is targeted because people like Clapper, Brennan, Comey, and others, they think that they knew better than you did, the American people, about who should be the president. They've weaponized the powerful tools of intelligence, turned it on us, and they are now politicizing differences, political differences. And by the way, Clapper, since you're so concerned about Russian influence in the election, did you have a spy in the Clinton campaign? Now, we know for a fact her campaign
was colluding, had a foreign agent, Christopher Steele, paying for Russian lies and propaganda to lie to the American people. And Clinton and the DNC, remember, they paid over, what, $12 million for the Russian dossier full of Russian lies. Where's the FBI? Where's the CIA? Where are the spies? Of course, there weren't any. Instead of investigating it, well, they used former spy Christopher Steele, who they fired, as a trusted source, and they used false, completely unverified, never corroborated, a dossier he put together to get a warrant and then spy on the Trump campaign, never tell the judges she paid for it, and in the process, lying to FISA court judges on 4 separate occasions, never revealing Hillary paid for all this. This is the biggest abuse of power corruption scandal we have seen in the history of this country. Talk about Watergate. This is Watergate on steroids and human growth hormone. Watergate, what, a third-rate break-in that eventually forced a president to resign? You may...
Well, the evidence is persuasive and overwhelming. Former FBI Deputy Director Andrew McCabe, just one of, and there are their pictures, many top FBI and Department of Justice officials involved in the Clinton and Russian investigations who have now been fired or demoted. And there are shocking new revelations concerning McCabe, Jordan, and Meadows. Say an FBI report from the Office of Professional Responsibility found McCabe lied not once, but 4 times about leaking information to the media. Once he lied to the Office of Professional Responsibility, once to the former FBI Director James Comey, twice under oath to the Inspector General.